You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and joining me today, as you guys have been requesting him back for quite some time, is my brother, Fabio. Fabio, how you doing today?
How's it going, Steph? I'm happy to be back on your show. It's a pleasure and ready to talk some Niner football.
Now, did you know that people are always requesting for you to come back? For some reason, people love having you on here.
I did not know that. I do know that some people on your pod reference Jimmy G, and they do also seen a lot of folks reference my Niners memorabilia.
Yes.
But it's an honor, to be honest with you, to have your listeners requesting or asking when I'm back on. Like I said, I feel honored to be here, and hopefully I do them. I don't fail them.
No, definitely you have not. I mean, that's why people like you on. And I will say that video that we posted of your man cave, that's still getting some views. Even like non-49er fans like comment and be like, I love a good man cave. So it's still getting some good views out there. But
I'm gonna be honest. Today I was like, should I take this pod from the man cave, or should I just keep it simple?
I think you should have, but I know that the setup is like a whole thing. You gotta get the extension cord out and all these things.
The lighting down there is not the best. So
yeah.
I'll say this: next time, for sure, I'll be in the man cave, and I'll make sure that Joe Montana and Jerry Rice are making their presence known.
Okay. There we go then. Next time. But what we're going to be talking about today is also quarterbacks, but particularly why different quarterbacks keep getting linked to the 49ers. Earlier in the week, we talked about Kirk Cousins. His name was getting brought up at the Combine, linked with the 49ers. And now yesterday, we heard Aaron Rodgers' name now in the mix. And this all comes after the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, at the league meetings spoke about their quarterback situation. And quite frankly, I got the sense that they feel pretty good about the three guys that they have. I don't know if you got the same sense. So why do you think some of these big names are getting brought up?
Yeah, first off, regarding, certain individuals in the media bringing up big name quarterbacks coming to the 49ers. You mentioned them: Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers. I've even seen Tom Brady still being mentioned, right? I think really that's clickbait. We're in the point of the year right now where it's the off season. And so you have certain media channels and personalities trying to kind of get the attention of NFL fans. And the 49ers are, have a strong following, right? So, for me, it's just clickbait. It's just clickbait, and it's a situation where media is just trying to kind of stir the pot and bring attention to something that's really not there. Us as 49er fans, I think we would love to see, Tom Brady possibly in a 49er uniform, maybe even Aaron Rodgers in a 49er uniform, right? But I think that we as real true Niner fans, we kind of know the truth. We see the writing on the wall. Like you had mentioned, Kyle and John addressed the media, and they really were very, very supportive of the three quarterbacks that they got in the locker room at the moment. I think, bringing in Sam Darnold kind of closed the door, in my opinion, to everyone else coming in from the outside. I had even seen a lot of talk about Lamar Jackson, us possibly even putting a package together for Lamar Jackson. So the fact that they went out and got Sam Darnold, to me, that was the 49ers way of saying, we are good. We're good. We are moving forward with the 3 that we have here in the locker room. They have a lot of confidence in Trey Lance. They have a lot of confidence in Brock Purdy. And let's be honest, like that is a coaches and a GM's wish list to have a young prospect at quarterback at that contract that they have him in, right? So why are we going to go out and make a move for a guy that's going to demand 35 million plus when we have a great situation that we're currently in? Young quarterback, rookie contracts, not breaking the bank. So for me, that's how I'm reading the room right now.
And I think that's the most realistic way to look at it. I mean, I think you tackled a lot of great points in your response there. And I think the biggest one being the 49ers want a cost-controlled quarterback room, finally, right? Because I think the way that their roster is built right now, they kind of have to. They have to cut costs at other positions, right? And right now, they see the quarterback room as being, that they like you said, they have confidence in Brock Purdy. They have confidence in Trey Lance. That confidence a little more debatable, right? But I still think the point stands that clearly they want to have a cheaper quarterback room, and that allows them to make rooms elsewhere. That allowed the Javon Hargrave move to be made. Otherwise, if you have a Aaron Rodgers, if you have a Kirk Cousins, you're allocating a crap load of money to the quarterback position. And suddenly you're kind of in the same situation that the Packers were in. You're kind of in the same situation that the Vikings were in, where, yes, you have an above average quarterback. You can even call Aaron Rodgers elite, but the rest of the makeup of the team, clearly the talent level is less because you're not able to allocate money to some of the other positions. So I think even Kyle and John kind of emphasize that when they spoke to the media, right? That they're fine with the guys they have, and also they want a cheaper quarterback room. So yeah, I think it's mostly to drum up some interest. I mean, a lot of media people know the 49er fans are kind of probably one of the most engaged fan bases there is, and certainly when it comes to the quarterback position, I think there's more engagement that comes out of that as well. I'll also throw out the possibility that maybe the Packers threw out the 49ers name to the media just to say, hey, we're trying to speed this process along. It's getting pretty close to the draft, and I can imagine the Packers going back and forth with the Jets here and Aaron Rodgers are probably in a holding pattern that they don't want to be in when the draft comes along. So I think they want to move this along, and one way to do that is have another team in the mix that kind of acts as a threat and a, hurry up to the process. So I think that's all that is, if anything. Now, the Kirk Cousins talk, I think that coming from the combine, it made sense because at the time, the 49ers didn't really know what Brock Purdy, his recovery was going to look like, right? At that time when that happened. So I think at that time it made sense for other quarterbacks to be, potential options for the 49ers because they would have had to change their plans a whole lot if, let's say, Brock Purdy had to do the reconstruction and he'd be out for like at least 12 months, right? So I think Kirk Cousins talk made sense then. Now, not so much. And like you said, I think it's just a way of, media guys, podcasters, what have you, trying to, drum up engagement. So,
yeah, I'm actually, keeping with the conversation of quarterbacks, I'm really surprised we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers signed yet. I'm really surprised, or traded. I'm also really surprised that the ongoing situation with Lamar Jackson hasn't been figured out yet. Also, you would have thought these are two top 10 premier quarterbacks in this league. You would have thought that by now somebody would have committed and secured those two quarterbacks to a contract by now. So I'm the quarterback moves still kind of, I'm very surprised that they haven't been made, and it's very cold right now. It's not very hot. We had a lot of activity at the beginning of free agency, but not so much with the quarterbacks. There's been a lot of, how do I say this? The market for those quarterbacks that are still available is very cold right now, at a pause. So I'm very surprised that, again, guys at that caliber haven't been, signed yet.
And I think that's why, like, as long as those other guys are still available, their names are going to get brought up with other quarterback needy teams. I guess, like, in that sense, it makes sense. Aaron Rodgers, he's already said he would like to go to the Jets. He's made that intention very clear. So now it's just a matter of the two sides, or the three sides, I guess, in this case, coming to an agreement on all the terms, like everything. I don't know exactly what is still holding that up, but I'm guess it's just a matter of time. Now, the Lamar Jackson situation is a real head scratcher because you would think, again, top 10 quarterback, clearly elevates the whatever team he would be on. And there's a lot of quarterback needy teams out there. I think that one's weird. It almost feels, I know people have said, like, oh, like the owners have agreed mutually that, we're not going to be in on Lamar Jackson. And it's like a big FU because he's negotiating for himself or something like that. And he wants a fully guaranteed contract. So it's kind of like the team saying, no, let's not normalize this. But in any case, it is still weird because elite quarterbacks don't just become available, most often. So I think it's for teams to be willing to say, I'm not going to go that route because of, whatever reason. I think it's a little weird, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, I think the 49ers, for the reason that we said, wouldn't consider Lamar Jackson because the makeup of their team, they want to allocate that money to other positions. Right. Lamar Jackson, you would have to tear down like the entire team to make that work. You know what I mean? And that's not something the 49ers want to do because they truly believe they have a win now roster. Speaking of win now roster, Albert Breer mentioned that the 49ers aren't as willing to let Trey Lance develop this season because they have a win now roster and they recognize that. My question is, did they not have a win now roster when they traded up to draft him in the first place? So it makes the pick all the more confusing. I understand not wanting to, I guess, jeopardize the win now window that you have. But at the same time, you knew he was a raw prospect coming out. So that one's a head-scratching decision on the 49ers part, and I'm curious to know what you think with everything that Kyle and John said about Trey Lance. Like, what is your sense on how they feel about him?
I like to see that both John and Kyle are still very supportive of Trey Lance, and they like what they see. We've heard a lot of great conversations and feedback from both of them regarding not only his rehab, but also just the high ceiling that he has. Kyle sees him on a day-by-day basis during the season, and so I trust a lot of what Kyle is saying. Again, they've been very supportive. They like what they see, and so for me, I feel like if we have a situation where if Brock were to go down or if Brock's not ready at the start of the season, Trey Lance is going to be the guy, and I'm okay with that because again, from what we've heard from Kyle and John, and also from the commitment that they made to him, at the beginning of the last year, I feel like they feel like this guy is capable of managing the game, winning games for them with the high caliber offensive weapons that they have, and then also with the defense that they have. Right? We don't need a guy that's going to come in here and put up, Joe Montana numbers, Patrick Mahomes numbers. We just need a guy that's not going to turn the ball over, that's going to manage the game, get us crucial third down situations and crucial points during the game, and really just find a way to win. Right? Put a W in that win column for us. And Brock Purdy did that for us. And I feel like they feel confident in Trey Lance being able to do that as well. So to answer your question, to kind of just recap everything that I said, I feel like they're still standing by their commitment, on Trey Lance. And right now, even though he's looking like the backup, they still like that situation that they're going into the season with, because we all know last year, I think more so than any year, I think we saw so many quarterbacks getting hurt in this league. We saw backups getting hurt, third string quarterbacks getting hurt. Some teams went through 4 quarterbacks, right?
The 49ers.
Miami, another team was the Arizona Cardinals, right? So many teams just went through quarterbacks. So it's always good to have that plan B. And the 49ers, I think, like what they see with Trey Lance, and they're happy with that situation that they have going into the season.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you interpreted their comments that way, because I actually kind of feel the opposite. Like I feel that they're cooling down on Trey Lance, and of course, I think Brock Purdy is part of the reason for that, because of what he was able to accomplish to end the season, right? And so it makes sense that they called Brock Purdy the leader of the clubhouse. But with that, I think there's a little bit of, completely disregarding Trey Lance. And I felt like the way that they talked about Sam Darnold is kind of what made me feel that way in particular. I'm okay with Brock Purdy being the leader of the clubhouse. I think it makes plenty of sense. But Kyle Shanahan did say Trey Lance was going to be sharing first team reps with Sam Darnold, a guy who, I'm sure Sam Darnold came into this quarterback situation with the intention of competing for the QB2 position, which, while Brock Purdy is out, would be the QB1 position, right? Like, I'm sure he was brought in thinking that. But I don't know. I feel like Trey Lance, who was the QB1 to start last season, suddenly is now in a position where he's having to compete with a guy who just joined in Sam Darnold. So
right.
I thought that was a little confusing. I feel like they're a little hot and cold on Trey Lance a bit, and I guess you didn't get that you didn't get that sense. So I guess that's pretty good. But I'm a little concerned. It almost feels like Trey Lance, my question is, what does Trey Lance have to do in order to get real consideration for getting the starter position back, even if Brock Purdy's back, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's my question. I hope that he gets a fair shot. That's all I want for him.
Yeah, very slim odds of him being your starter if Brock is available, and we understand why, right? There's no secret there. But the good thing about Trey Lance is he also understands the position that he's in, and that Brock earned that starting role. Like, he's taking this approach in a very positive way. He's being a team player. He understands the why, right? And so it's good to at least know that Trey is being, positive with this shifting of, ranks in the quarterback room. And I even think that if Sam Darnold were to kind of pass him up and move up to number 2, something tells me that Trey would still be Mr. Positive and approach the situation like, I'm still the student. I still have a lot to learn, and that's one thing about the kid that I do respect, is that he has not taken this demotion due to the injury to be, he's not taking it in a negative manner. He's being a team player. very positive. And that speaks to the leadership in that Niner locker room. It speaks to the leadership in the locker room. It speaks to the culture in the locker room that John and Kyle have and other key players have created. It's not about you. It's about us. It's not about you. It's about we. And so he understands that his day is going to come. His moment's going to come. When that opportunity comes, he needs to be ready, and he needs to really, ball. He needs to show up. And so when that time comes, I think he'll be ready. And so for now, he's going to have to kind of take a back seat to Brock and this carousel of quarterbacks that we have in our locker room.
Yeah, and I've said it before this offseason that like Trey Lance doesn't have time to feel sorry for himself, right? And like you said, he was on the Rich Eisen podcast during Super Bowl week, and he pretty much he understands the assignment of what's ahead of him this offseason, what he's going to have to do, and so it is a difficult situation, but one that he understands, and that's good. And also to your point, the 49ers, they're in the business of winning games first and foremost, right? So whatever quarterback they feel gives them the chance to win, and not just win, but win right now, that's the quarterback who they're going to go with. So I think it makes sense, but it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out this off season. My worry, I guess, is the development factor for Lance, because he needs all the reps, right? Like he needs more reps in order to develop into, the guy that they hoped he would be when they drafted him, right? And it seems like now he's going to be getting even less reps. I understand last year it was like there was nothing he can do. He got hurt. But like this year, he's not going to get those opportunities. Sam Darnold's in the mix. So, I don't know how exactly that's going to help him, but curious to know what you think of Sam Darnold as a whole. Like, what'd you think about that signing to begin with? Because I don't think I've really gotten a chance to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I was surprised. It caught a lot of people by surprise. I think we were expecting maybe a bigger name, maybe someone that was more of a veteran, like longer in the league, someone that had more starts and more wins under their belt, right? Because we're a Super Bowl contender, right? But at the same time, I'm not mad at the move. I wasn't mad at the move. Brock Purdy's our guy. Brock Purdy's projected to be the starting quarterback. Why bring someone that's going to be, that's really going to, compete with Brock when you already have Brock and you have him at a high level, a high confidence level coming off of the season that he just did, right? So they didn't want to go out and get someone that's going to be a bigger name than Brock, right? So I wasn't mad at the move. The money wasn't bad either. So I feel like from a financial standpoint, it wasn't a deal that broke the bank, and to me, I feel like Sam Darnold fits in this system. He fits in the system. If for whatever reason, Brock Purdy or Trey Lance happen to go down during the season, that'd be, very bad news for us. But I feel like just like Brock came in versus the Miami Dolphins, I feel like Sam Darnold could come in and manage the game. That's what we need. We need guys with high IQ that can manage the game, not turn the ball over. We have playmakers on this team. We need guys that are just going to get the ball to those playmakers. And I think Sam Darnold can do that, right? I'm not mad at the move. To answer your question, I was okay with it. Little surprised at first, but as the days progressed, I felt more comfortable and more happy and confident in the move that Kyle made, that John made in order to bring Sam over to the 49ers. I had heard that they were, Sam Darnold was someone that they liked coming out of college. So, they saw something in his work ethic and in his video and in his film breakdown that caught their eye, and they felt that he meshed well with the system. So again, I trust Kyle, I trust John, and I'm okay with the move.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty quarterback friendly system, right? I mean, like you said, he just needs to get the ball to the right player, and that's pretty much it. Don't turn the ball over. I feel like Brian Greasy, he was the first year quarterback coach last year. I think he did a great job with
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, with Brock Purdy. Unfortunately, we didn't see the sample size, a large enough sample size with him working with Trey Lance. But I feel like working with, Purdy and Garoppolo, those guys did a good job of taking care of the football. And I think that uh, clearly he's doing something right as far as the coaching goes. So that should help Sam Darnold as well. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But look, overall, the 49ers, they've made a few moves. We talked about the flashy move of Javon Hargrave. That was their one big splash this offseason. But aside from that, it's been a lot of like depth pieces, a lot of lesser known names. What are your thoughts on the moves that the 49ers have made so far this offseason?
Um, you know what? As a fan of last year's team, it was it was hard for me to see a lot of the starters and a lot of the guys who played a pivotal part in our run last year.
Yeah.
It was hard to see them leave, to be honest with you. And we saw a lot of guys, um, Mosley, Ward, a lot of guys left. I like the moves that they made with free agency. I felt that they made a big splash, um, but it was hard to see those other players leave. Especially like Ward and Mosley. Like these were guys that have been with the team for a while, and we've been successful on the defensive side of the football last 3 of the last 4 years. And we owe it a lot to some of these guys that left. So um, I'm a little worried because of some of the missing pieces that are not going to be there next year.
Hmm.
I'm sure they'll address a lot of that in the draft. McGlinchey's another one,
Yeah.
on the offensive line, and just a lot of pieces to the puzzle that no longer are going to be there. And so, although there were additions to the team, there were also a lot of subtractions. And so I'm a little worried to see how we fill in those gaps and how these new pieces kind of mesh with the current team that's there. This draft, it's an important draft. It's a very
Hmm.
important draft. Do we get playmakers that can make an impact this year? We're gonna need some guys to step up and you know provide some depth on this team, and fill in those holes that we lost. So, as a fan, I think that's the tough thing with free agency now. Um, we see certain players that don't stick around with your team as long as you would wish. So it was hard to see that and deal with that from a fan perspective. Um, I still think we're a Super Bowl contender. I still think that we are a team that's going to be successful this year, but just a little worried on how we fill in the holes for those guys that left.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of holes to fill. And the 49ers are now in this situation where, yeah, they do get some draft picks for some of the coaches, the guys in the organization who have left, at least for some of those guys. Uh, but with that comes those guys who have left are now taking some of the 49ers players as well. The Texans with D'Amico Ryans there, the Titans with Rand Carthon there. A lot of the 49ers free agents ended up going to either one of those teams. And there's a lot of now like Shanahan, I guess John Lynch disciples spread out in the NFL, where I think this is going to be an annual thing at this point, where a lot of 49ers free agents are going to end up going to these other teams. And so I
Yeah.
think that's something they're just going to have to continue to adjust to. And that makes the draft so important. Like you said, not only is this draft important because of the holes they need to fill, but I think some of the guys they drafted last year who maybe didn't have bigger roles, they're going to be looked upon as like someone who needs to take a next step. You think about Drake Jackson as a pass rusher. You think about Samuel Womack, some of that cornerback depth, just to name a few guys. Those guys are going to be looked at and they have to step up too. So, I think these last two drafts, this last draft and the one that's about to happen later this month are going to be huge in determining, is the success of the 49ers going to be sustainable beyond, this year, because there are a lot of extensions coming up. They're not going to be able to keep everyone. So that's why you have to hit on your draft picks.
Right. Let me ask you a question, Steph. Like what, now we've seen the Niners be successful the last, 3 of the 4 years. What's the window for this Niners success? Like, do you see it as a 1-year window, 2-year window? What's your thought on that? Because I know a lot of people like to kind of look ahead, right? And project and predict how long we're gonna keep at it, right? But what's your take on what this success window looks like for John and Kyle?
It's hard to say. I don't think there's going to be a complete rebuild with this regime. I think what they would like to do is at some point have a retooling, right, of the team where, okay, yeah, maybe you're not a Super Bowl contender, but you're still competing for a playoff spot. Like that would be the ideal scenario. And I kind of see it coinciding with Trent Williams, honestly, because Trent Williams, I think, does a lot for that offensive line. He is so elite at his position that when he's not there, I think it's going to be a huge, we'll notice the difference. Sometimes you don't always notice the difference when some players leave, but I think he's one that one's going to hurt a little bit. And so I think the 49ers see that, he's contemplating retirement. Maybe you get a year or two more out of him. But I think the offensive line, I think there's going to have to be some shifts and some adjustments that happen. Also, you got to think about other players. Kyle Juszczyk, right? He's getting up there in age too. You got to wonder like how much longer he's going to, be playing football. For the most part, though, he's been able to stay healthy. So maybe, I'm over exaggerating that. But you also have to look at all the contracts because like they're paying some of these foundational players a whole lot of money. And at some point, some of those players, they're going to have to either trade or outright cut because they don't have the money to continue paying those guys and extending other guys that they want, right? So I think that fork in the road it's already coming up, right? I mean, we know they have to extend Nick Bosa. That's going to be a huge contract. We know they have to extend Brandon Ayuk, sometime next year, probably next offseason. So they'll have to make some decisions, some really tough decisions. And pretty much those decisions, along with the draft and how well they draft and last year, this year, and even next year, I think is going to determine if that window stays open, or if they'll just kind of be like meddling until they're ready to, take off again. But the way that the 49ers kind of have run this team these last few years, it's safe. It's very safe. And they don't want to, how should I say this? I think they plan ahead a lot. And they kick the can down the road a bit for some of their contracts and whatnot. So I don't see them wanting to do a full rebuild anytime soon. I don't think that's in the cards for them either. Like they have so many good foundational pieces. And so I think it'll more so be a retooling at some point, but I don't think that happens for another year or two at least.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, thanks for kind of giving me your look on that. I kind of agree with you a little bit. I think the window For me personally, and I've had this conversation with a few of my friends, I feel like the window is at 1 year, to be honest with you.
It, it
I
could be.
feel like
Yeah.
this is the year. Like this is the year where they're gonna give it one last go, and possibly if if this year's good, bad, whatever it is, we're gonna lose a lot of key guys next year as well.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Juice. You mentioned some key players on the offensive line.
Yeah.
How about George Kittle? That's one that I feel like his days and might be numbered as well. He's getting up there in age. He's a guy that also in the past has dealt with a lot of injuries. And then, like you said, you start talking some contracts, right? Which one of these contracts do they hold on to, and which ones do they just get rid of? So to me, this window is right at about a year for me. And this is really the year that I feel like it's a go. And if things don't work out here, you might start seeing some drastic changes after this season.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like you at some point you have to kind of go all in on one season. And if you had to decide when that's going to be, I think it has to be this year. And I feel like the Javon Hargrave signing kind of hints to that too. They know what they're up against, what they have to do, to elevate this team. We talked about the fact they did lose a lot of guys, but the core guys who make this team are still here. So I think while that is still true, they need to make a solid run. The problem is even this season they don't have that much money to sign any more, splash players, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, but they have a ton of confidence in the current roster. And so I think they're just gonna put their faith in that. But Fabio, it's been great having you on. We'll definitely have to do this again now
For
that
sure.
you have your work from home set up. So I think we can do this as often as we want. I think maybe sometime after the draft,
That-
I'll look to have you back on again.
That'll be nice. And I promise next time I'll be in the man cave. We'll have the jerseys in the background, the trophies in the background, and the vibe will be very 80s Niner dynasty
Nice.
when I'm back. So it was a pleasure. Fun talking with you always about Niner football. I'll say this: your knowledge of Niner football, and especially during the draft, has impressed me, and I love how you continue to study players. And to me, your in-depth breakdown of the draft has really been what I've enjoyed watching in your development as a person that follows not only Niner football but just football in general. Like it's a pleasure to see you really break down the draft and some of these prospects that the Niners are looking at. To me, that's what separates you from other folks, and continue doing a great job, Steph. And it's fun. It's fun watching you.
Well, I definitely appreciate those kind words, and yeah, I'm always trying to get better at all things football so that I can talk about it in a educated way, right? So I definitely take that seriously. So I definitely appreciate those comments. Appreciate you having coming on today, and like I said, we'll make it happen here again soon. But for all you guys that tuned in, make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe if you have not yet. And I'll be doing a prospect interview here in about 20 minutes. So hang around if you want, and I'll be live again. But for now, have a good rest of your Wednesday afternoon, people. Peace.
See you later.